As if they don't have too much on their plate. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast, John and Wade. They'll talk about the things they did that day. They'll analyze the work of Vince and Triple H. Review a SmackDown. 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 Review a SmackDown.
Welcome to Review a SmackDown. I'm John Pollock, along with Wai Ting.
Yeah, it's me.
I smell a certain aroma in the room.
Ooh. What kind?
Is that a new phone? It is a new phone.
Yeah, I just got it.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's no duct tape over the top of it.
There's a...
What is that? Is that the
plastic.
iPhone 7?
No, it's a 6.
Oh, it's a 6. That's nice. Very thin. It's better, better than my phone.
Yours is...
I'm like the 5S.
No, it's not.
I think it is.
No, you have a 6, dude.
Do I have? It's not the same as yours, though.
Yeah, I have a 6 Plus, though.
6. You didn't say that. Plus is all the difference in the world.
Okay.
You're right. I had the 5S. I upgraded to the 6. Fuck. Shut up, you privileged assholes.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I hear. Wai, are you ready for the weekend?
I am.
I'm dreading it.
What? Why?
Because there's so much.
This will be fun.
I feel my head's going to be spinning by the end of Sunday night.
It's all manageable. Well, how much? Okay, I think people are sick of us even talking about our schedules. But outside of, I know you're going to TakeOver. You're going to Raw. You're doing the Law on Sunday night, so you're not going to Survivor Series. You're hosting the Jim Ross special. Are you going to any of the other events?
I'm going to try and pop by Jericho's thing Sunday morning because it's on the way to Jim Ross's thing and they don't overlap. So I was going to stop by to say hello to some people.
And of course, Friday, the main event.
Survivor Strikes.
Yeah, Comedy Bar.
There's a lot of people coming into town for this. My good pal Paul Lazenby is coming.
Wow.
Pat LaPrade is coming.
Fantastic. Well,
Braden Harrington will be in the house.
He's actually in this building right now.
I know, but I never see him.
Yeah.
So this is a chance this weekend to catch up with Braden.
Yeah, Braden just kind of works in like a little closet with a bunch of monitors and computers.
It's a very sheltered existence for one Braden Harrington. I need to ask you about a topic, and this is a very sensitive topic in pro wrestling that's going on that you and I have not discussed. But have you followed the Joey Styles story from this weekend? I know.
I followed it. I haven't heard the clip though.
Let's be clear here. I think context is always key for these things. Yep. And I mean, you and I were at the UFC event. It was funny because had that Evolve show been a few hours earlier, like an afternoon show, I totally would have gone to Queens and watched it before UFC. But it was impossible to be at the show. And we wouldn't have heard it if we were there live anyway. So Joey Styles is doing a segment with Stokely Hathaway and their ring announcer that he's throwing to, Joanna Rose. And he goes to state that if our next president were here, he'd want to grab you by the... And he didn't finish the sentence. And then turns to Stokely Hathaway and states, the word I didn't use brings me to you, Stokely Hathaway. Something to that effect.
Who is Stokely Hathaway?
He's like one of the heel managers there in Evolve. And... So following that, now it's important to note that Gabe Sapolsky had informed everybody in the locker room, including Joey Styles, no politics on this show. We are not opening up that can of worms on this platform. So Joey Styles was fired that night from future Evolve shows. They couldn't even put up the replay on Flow Slam. This was the first Flow Slam event because they had to edit these comments out.
Well, I was going to ask if this comment has been circulating anywhere on the internet.
I haven't seen it. I'm sure it is. I did a quick look for it and couldn't find it, but I'm sure some people have it out there. But anyway, so in light of that, Joey Styles, he put out an open letter kind of from his perspective on things. Since then, Beyond Wrestling, who also has a deal with Flow Slam for a December show, they are not going to use Joey Styles. Mike Quackenbush put out a letter from Chikara stating we are not going to use Joey Styles either, and kind of going to the side that wrestling and its past. I'm summarizing here. You can see the link in my daily update from Tuesday, but writing about wrestling as a history of like sexism, racism, and we need to move beyond this. We need pro wrestling as a whole to move past just like this, kind of like these lowest common denominator insults and just that's a go-to, and it's a staple of pro wrestling. And you've gotten a lot of people that have come out in support of Joey Styles. Mickie James was one, and then today Dawn Marie put out a letter and pretty much criticized Gabe Sapolsky and Mike Quackenbush for jumping on Joey Styles here. So now Gabe Sapolsky is going back towards Dawn Marie and criticizing her. And yeah, it's just this crazy fallout to this story, which I knew would be very debated on both sides, of people who feel this is just pro wrestling, stop taking it so seriously, and others who say, no, this was an awful joke mocking, sexual harassment, sexual assault as just a heat-getting line. Do you have any opinion on this way?
I haven't heard the clip, so I'm kind of afraid to
That's fair enough.
really say. But it seems like this is, just more so unearth just a larger discussion at hand. And, it's, again, I haven't heard the comment, so I can't really say. But it seems like Joey Styles is sort of, like, in his comments are sort of the, I don't know, kind of the symbol that's now representing kind of the old way of thinking in professional wrestling. But I'm glad that, like, pro wrestling as a whole is starting to become more progressive. And I think it's nice that it's finally kind of catching up to the rest of society. It's.
I just think it's a lazy argument when people are stating, oh, the PC police are out. It's pro wrestling. Lighten up. It's just like everything else. And to me, it's such a backward way of thinking that, what would get a lot of heat?
Yeah.
What would get a ton of heat from people is that if a white wrestler called another guy the N-word, people would say that's heat. There would be people that would defend that, and I would be totally so disgusted if that was utilized.
Yeah, sure.
And why is that different than a movie that portrays a racist villain that uses the N-word?
Why is it different?
I feel it's very different in a pro wrestling context where this is not. To me, pro wrestling has built itself on this platform where there is a certain area of which they play that there's certain things that I want to put this the right way, that going for that lowest common denominator, I think people see right through that, and it's more a reflection of the industry and the people that are putting together this show. This is not being done in the same way that you sit down and watch a movie. I just don't see the similarities of pro wrestling to sitting down and watching a movie where there's a villain portrayed as a racist.
Well, I mean, I kind of do it, but to me it comes down to the tact that you use if you were to have a character do something like that.
This was also an off-the-cuff remark that Styles was told not to go in that direction, and he stated he panicked and went this way.
Going back to the idea of a racist saying the N-word to get heat, I think just to have that happen would be very cheesy and cheap. And I think that's probably the big issue. It
would be the company
issue
that would get the criticism and not so much this villain getting heat.
But if you had Quentin Tarantino directing a professional wrestling show with the budget and with the level of acting and storytelling and scripting of a Django Unchained telling the story of, a slave fighting back at his masters. I mean, I don't think there'd be that same criticism if Leonardo DiCaprio suddenly showed up at a wrestling event playing a professional wrestler, playing a slave master, and if he said the N-word for the sake of a story. I think in large part it comes down to, does it serve the purpose of the art? And if it's cheap, then often I think you can criticize that.
I think also the context is whether, has pro wrestling reached that level that when Triple H did the feud with Booker T, and that there was tons of race baiting in that particular angle and running down Booker T and the nappy hair comment. It's that pro wrestling to me has not reached that level where you give them that benefit of the doubt. It's viewed as cheap. It's viewed as just it's taken as offensively by a company that is projecting this language and this racism, as opposed to, a project like a Quentin Tarantino film, for instance, where I think he is given much more the benefit of the doubt that he is trying to get into more complicated issues, that pro wrestling, when it comes to complicated topics, I think they handle very poorly. And it is oversimplification of a lot of, big topics that they sometimes meld into their world.
So let's get back to let's say Joey Styles' comment. Because I've heard, in the world of comedy, for instance, people get away with far worse than what Joey Styles says.
Sure.
Why is that different?
I mean, I think sometimes people use the comedy excuse, and it's just this entire industry that gets away with it. And I think it really depends on, for a lot of people, the comic and that own person's politics, that own person's viewpoint. Dave Chappelle using the N-word on Saturday Night Live is completely different than a white comedian using the N-word in his opening monologue. There's just going to be a totally different context.
I listened to Rogan's podcast covering the election, and I forget which comedian it was, but in a joke, almost sarcastically, that white comedian, said the N-word as if, the world's coming to an end. You could say the N-word now. That type of thing. And I know a lot of people would not be okay with it. I'm not, I don't even, whatever. That's besides the point. But I think it got laughs there. Rogan was laughing. People were laughing. Why is it acceptable in that form for some people?
Well, I think it's all in how you look at it. I didn't look at this as Joey Styles deciding that he has this forum for social commentary that I think largely comedians, that is kind of what you expect out of it. And there's definitely more latitude.
So it's the forum. But then
the forum is different. I also feel it's...
But remember, though, this is... I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
No, go
Styles.
for it. I don't have one solid opinion on this.
Joey Styles comes from ECW, where at the time he kind of made his name on working for a controversial company with a controversial product, saying controversial things as the commentator.
A generation ago, too.
Right, but that's that's what he's known for.
I think at the base of this, he was told not to go in this direction, and he did, and that alone is grounds for firing. Right. Now, you can go the step further. Should Chikara and Beyond Wrestling have also distanced themselves? Based on this fallout, I mean, this guy kind of branded himself toxic with this comment, and these companies don't want to deal with this.
For sure. As a PR thing, I could understand it. Do you think it's warranted, though, that Joey Styles is being used as a figure with which to basically kind of place blame on the history of professional wrestling as sort of a cheap, racist...
There's definitely some of that, too. He carries the baggage of a profession that is not often viewed as progressive or forward-thinking. He's certainly wearing that. As well, we're kind of arguing it from the standpoint, had Evolve as a promotion and as a creative direction decided to utilize this comment to somehow present a political statement. They did not. This was Joey Styles going rogue and acting on his own. So there is a difference there. I think that had Evolve been approving of this comment, I think that becomes more of a debate as to whether or not this belongs on professional wrestling. I've never believed the idea that you just keep politics at the door, you don't bring that into pro wrestling. I think that's what's really intriguing about professional wrestling, is that you can take a lot of complex issues and tell them through the lens of professional wrestling. Pro wrestling can be done well and still tackle political issues. I'm not anti-politics in wrestling. But I think you make a great point that this is more an indictment of the entire history of pro wrestling, where, I mean, the comment that really doesn't get any play in all of this, it's more so the pussy line, as opposed to him directing pussy as an insult towards Stokely Hathaway. It's like, the word I was going to say better suits you. Like this put down. He's
calling a heel villain a pussy.
Yes.
And is that, you're saying that's the worst thing? That's like that was the...
I don't think it was worse, but I don't think that's great. I don't think...
But that happens.
I don't think pussy and weakness has to be necessarily this parallel.
But it's a common insult in our society. John Jones called it to Daniel Cormier, and people didn't really get up in arms about that.
Well, 15 years ago, there were other terms, too, that were commonly used that today are really not. So it's fine. Brand me Mr. PC Police number 1. That's fine. But to me, I just think that that's such a... Like, arguing that this was commonplace in... I mean, how do you feel, Wai?
Oh, what about me calling you a dick?
Calling me a dick.
Yeah.
I don't think that necessarily carries the weight that pussy does. I really don't think it does. Have you ever called a woman a dick?
No.
Has that ever been an insult that you come across?
A man calling a woman a dick?
A man calling a woman a dick?
No, I'd probably use another word.
All right.
I mean, I've been called a dick, I'm sure. I'm sure you've been called a dick.
You have been, but it's not designed as weak or...
Right, okay.
Like, to me, dick and pussy as insults have a totally different... one's reserved for one and one's for the other.
Yeah. By calling somebody a pussy, you're saying that this person is effeminate, and you're saying that being effeminate is a negative thing.
Like, if I call you a dick, that doesn't mean you're afraid, that you're weak, that you're less than. But that is what pussy is designed to elicit.
Sure. Okay.
So that's a big difference.
So can you call somebody pussy and mean that in a good way?
No, and that's the point that I'm stressing, is that...
So you're saying that's what we should be striving for?
No, I'm not, Wai. You're not listening here. Is that dick is not taken as this insult of you being inferior, whereas pussy is.
Yeah, but I take it as inferior, because to call somebody a dick means they're overly aggressive. And that, to me, is a negative trait that I wouldn't want anybody to think of me as.
Well... All right. We've gone down into this rabbit hole, and I'm already hearing the Twitter comments, which I'll stay off of tonight.
This is a SmackDown review, is it not?
Oh, we're 18 minutes in. Well, I think it's an interesting conversation to have, and I'm glad that it's being discussed. And I just feel that the argument of this is pro wrestling, turn your brain off, has always been to me such a lazy argument for adapting your thought process to modern times.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Do you want to chat about SmackDown?
Yeah, sure.
Or is there any other points you want to make before we...
Again, I haven't even heard the comments, so I feel like I can't really say all that much.
Well, I don't think the comment is what it is. I don't think that there's a positive context to it. I mean, it is what it is. But we will get into SmackDown.
I feel like people deserve, proper, like a proper trial.
I don't feel he should be just expunged from pro wrestling. I think he has to take this criticism and this negativity attached with him, but I don't think that this should be a deal breaker for him to get future work. I would not be in favor of that at all. You could even disagree about people other than Evolve choosing not to work with him, but look what this has elicited, and there's a lot of promotions that just don't want to deal with this at this point in time. But I do not advocate for Joey Styles just being given this scarlet letter that he's not going to be utilized by anybody. Anyway. All right. SmackDown. The 900th episode, Wai.
Yeah.
From Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And we started off the show with classic SmackDown clips as we got into the preview for tonight's show. And these clips included one Hulk Hogan with Brock Lesnar.
Speaking of controversial figures.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So Hulk Hogan featured here along with Steve Austin, The Rock. We got a grand total of, I believe, 3 classic SmackDown clips throughout this 2-hour show.
That's pretty much one clip per every 300 episodes.
Yeah, that's a good rate.
Yeah.
One defining moment every 300 episodes. Yeah. Morrow says tonight's show is going to be LIT. So there's someone that says it. You always ask Braden. Do people say that?
Yeah, I know.
They do.
Yeah. Morrow and Braden, I think, probably have the same vocabulary.
It's
actually
that Canadian influence.
Yeah.
Shane McMahon comes out, followed by Daniel Bryan in their very best 900th episode jeans, and Bryan with a hoodie. And they promote tonight's episode and announce the Intercontinental title match will start the show. And that begins with Dolph Ziggler and The Miz for the IC title. They got a lot of time here. There was a skull-crushing finale blocked early as Miz avoided a super kick. They went through 2 commercial breaks. Miz started signaling for the yes kicks and then delivering them to the arm. Ziggler then ducked a head kick, rolled him up for a 2 count, and then Miz hit this running knee and skull-crushing finale for a near fall. Then Miz kicked at the bad knee of Ziggler and was working over the knee earlier, and Ziggler hit the zigzag off the ropes, foot on the bottom rope by Miz. The Spirit Squad ran down, then they got knocked off the apron, and Miz kicks at the knee from behind and applies a figure 4. Miz fights to the ropes, and then Miz goes for the figure 4. It's turned into a small package, but then Maurice pushes them over, so Miz is on top with the inside cradle and pins Ziggler to become a 6-time Intercontinental Champion, and Dolph Ziggler's 37-day reign is over via Maurice.
37 days.
37 days, Wai.
Well, I've only seen highlights of SmackDown for some weeks before this episode, actually, so I can't really tell you, but let me ask, did they do much to capitalize on Dolph Ziggler's momentum coming off of his IC title win in past weeks?
I mean, I didn't think they did an awful job with him. I mean, he hasn't been all over the show. It's been building to this rematch. I mean, he had a quick squash over Kurt Hawkins in like 6 seconds a few weeks back. I mean, it's been fine. I didn't think that this was this disaster.
So what happens now with Dolph Ziggler? Because
he's not on the card as of right now.
Well, I'm saying before he was challenging The Miz for the IC title, he was claiming that if he doesn't win this, it's over. He's going to have to reassess his life. Well, he won it, but now he's lost it. So what does that mean?
He's back to being Dolph Ziggler. So maybe he'll have another reassessment in 6 months of losing.
Yeah, I think so. I thought the match was good. I thought it's a little challenging for me, at least, to get my attention because I've seen these two wrestle so often. But nonetheless, I thought, they always have good chemistry and they're pretty fundamentally sound.
Yeah, I think the finish really didn't do anything for Ziggler. I just thought this was such a weak way for him to lose the title with such a huge title win in the way in which they did it for this reign to end so prematurely and just by such a crappy way with Maurice. Hardly even doing anything heinous. I mean, we saw her spraying Ziggler in the eyes in the past. This is just shoving them over. And
she still got involved. I mean, I think it's more so them wanting to do Miz versus Zayn instead of Zayn versus Ziggler. And it suggests to me that Sami Zayn would win.
I would say then just have that great match then and Ziggler loses on Sunday. I mean, does The Miz really benefit from a 6-day title, but 5-day title reign? But
I guess Ziggler losing via Maurice helps him a little bit more.
I guess. So you figure Zayn's winning on Sunday?
I have to feel that way. Otherwise, why would they do this sudden title change?
I'd be fine if it means the U.S. and IC titles are going to merge, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not, if they're really going to get rid of that title, as we said, especially if they end up swapping the cruiserweights onto SmackDown. Right. I mean, I don't see one going over if the other isn't. Or maybe they both stay, and we're right back to the Miz IC title reign, which almost feels like when he lost the title, we were all stating, well, this should be his segue into a main event spot. He's developed into a main event heel, but I mean, the IC title almost feels like a step back after he just had a 6-month reign.
I think it's a step back for The Miz, but it would be something for Sami Zayn, especially
possibly,
who's got nothing right now.
We got a clip of episode number 36 with Steve Austin destroying the DX Express bus before Backlash that year. Now, the date on this way, August 27th, 2000. I hate to tell the WWE production team, but incorrect, because anyone that knows anything knows that August 27th, 2000 was the date of SummerSlam that year, which happened to be on a Sunday, and this show was not August 27th, it was April 27th.
Whoa.
They were off by a lot.
Good for you. Fact check that.
Yeah, so come on, guys. Let's get it together on our 900th episode. Then they previewed Randy Orton on Shooter that debuts tonight on the USA Network. I missed this. I don't even know if it aired in Canada, but boy, was I told about this series all night long on SmackDown.
It's just a guest starring role, right?
Yes. Alexa Bliss is with Daniel Bryan making her case for her match last week where she had her foot on the rope, and Bryan doesn't have time for this. The referee's decision is final, but Alexa will get a rematch against Becky Lynch, but her focus needs to be on the Survivor Series match. Natalya walks in blowing a whistle and calls this a teachable moment and then quotes Chumbawamba, that when you get knocked down, you get back up again.
Yeah. That's her gimmick now.
And Natalya doesn't know who Chumbawamba is.
Yeah.
That was it. Quoting late 90s one-hit wonders.
No, these are all 90s songs that she's doing, right?
Yes.
Who would you like? Any requests?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, TRL.
You know what? Maybe.
You should tweet her requests. I'm sure she'll try to work them in.
Yeah, maybe Drinking in L.A. by Brand Van.
Was that a hit in America?
It was in my head. It's still on my Brand Van is one of my favorite groups of all time.
I heard that on the radio the other day.
They were not a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, they were.
No, dude, Astounded.
You can argue that they weren't really any hit wonder.
That was a big song in 1998.
In
Drinking in L.A.?
In Toronto, yeah.
They were Canadian-centric, but I think they had some international appeal.
You know, I think I'd love to hear some Natalya, if you're listening. I'd love to hear some maybe some Tupac.
I don't. After what happened to Joey Styles, I don't know if she's going to be rhyming off Tupac songs. That would be my guess.
Her cat's name is Two Paws.
I know. Yeah, you're right. There is the natural connection there. Oney Lorcan took on Kalisto next. Biff Busick, for those that maybe are not following him in NXT, came up here to lose quickly. Lorcan attacked him at the bell with this running uppercut and then one to the back and a half Nelson suplex. Kalisto then went to leap off the middle rope and slipped, and Lorcan just jumped on him and attacked. And I thought Lorcan covered this really well.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't the deer in the headlights reaction.
Definitely showed a lot of in-ring experience to be able to cover just like that.
And then Kalisto just came off an Irish whip and hit the Salida del Sol and went right to the finish at a minute 14. So this was super quick.
I would say, you know, that the fumble was sort of the most notable part of the matchup, and as a result, with the way he recovered, I thought this, what was supposed to be a showcase match for Kalisto, I thought ended up being more of a showcase for Oney Lorcan. Biff Busick.
Yes.
Yeah, and Kalisto, you know, I don't know. This match was so brief anyway. I don't think he really gained anything from this little appearance prior to his Brian Kendrick title match on Sunday.
Then we had the first of many backstage segments in a smoke-filled room where we see The Undertaker's hat and then it's lifted off a bench without seeing The Undertaker.
Yeah.
His magic has taken over a area of the Mohegan Sun Arena in Wilkes-Barre.
Yeah, I like to think that he brought his own lights with the purple gel, and just lighting it there in his smoke machine that he carries to every venue.
Yeah, he's a DOP.
Yeah, just set it up himself, and
it's the smoke machine. Gets his wardrobe, the lighting.
But you know what? It works. It works for this audience. I think it gets people excited for it. I think a big problem with why, for me, it looks really cheesy is because they shoot it on video, and as opposed to more of a film look, let's say Lucha Underground would do. I think, man, if they just kind of change some of those philosophies, it would make all the difference. It would make anytime they try to do something cinematic like that, the Bray Wyatt hide and seek thing, all that stuff would look way better if they just shot it with more of a film look.
Our next SmackDown moment, we went backwards. We went to episode number 1 from August 26th of 1999 when Shawn Michaels super kicked The Rock and led to Triple H beating him and then celebrating with Shane McMahon on the inaugural episode. I guess there was the pilot in April, which doesn't add to the actual count.
Right.
Then we had a Dwayne Johnson Instagram video that he posted in honor of SmackDown's 900th episode. The sexiest man alive, Dwayne Johnson.
For this year?
Yeah. People magazine named him the sexiest man alive.
Wow. That's
which,
impressive.
had I known, that would have been the contest on Monday. name the top 3 sexiest men other than Dwayne Johnson.
Well, 2 of them right here.
Clearly.
Talking to you.
Yeah. People are, that's why they're upset when we don't do a video.
Yeah.
They don't get to see us.
Mm-hmm.
Though the comments kind of go against that theory for me. And in this Instagram message he wrote to the locker room, don't be like me and stay on time.
So I guess he was always late.
Well, the infamous one was the This Is Your Life segment, which everyone remembers just for the giant audience it attracted. But they went so long that was kind of the impetus behind the writing team and making sure people stayed on time, because that threw the show completely out of whack for how long it ended up going. It was only supposed to be, I can't remember the exact time, but they just went so much longer.
Right.
So blame Dwayne Johnson the next time you hear a painful video game themed promo from TJ Perkins and the guy can't just go talk as himself. Team SmackDown, the tag teams, are in the back with their blue shirts on. So we did have SmackDown Live shirts made. And Heath Slater brought them in a motivational speaker, and it's King Booker, who comes in speaking with the accent, and then they're stopped by the Fashion Police, Tyler Breeze and Fandango, and this is their new gimmick. And they accuse them of creating fashion fraud and calls Booker Booger.
King Booger.
King Booger, which I thought that we were going to get Undertaker pop-up. Booger Red.
Or Boogeyman.
Maybe the worst nickname.
Booger Red?
Booger Red. One that didn't really catch on. Those T-shirts. Booker tells them to dress like champions and not rejects from the Pirates of the Caribbean, and then goes into his normal Booker voice, and all the tag teams chant, "All hail King Booker." A nice little cameo from a well-remembered character.
Yeah, a nice little cameo. But catch me up on what the Usos have been doing lately, because to see them back here...
I didn't like them on this show at all.
Standing right next to Chad Gable, a guy who had his ankle broken multiple times by these two, and they're all just standing around smiling, chanting King Booker with each other, didn't do much for me.
Yeah, of all the teams that have not got along, the Usos have had no problems with this tag team, and... Not so much. You bring up a great point that I didn't even remember about the Gable stuff. But then in the match, which we'll get to, I mean, just total baby faces.
Yeah.
And they've done such a great job of cutting all that stuff out. And I mean, yeah, you get the pop for momentarily, but it's like that's not your role now.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Like, I think one of the benefits of SmackDown comparing it to Raw this week was that they didn't have a ton of infighting at all amongst their teams, and that was a little refreshing coming off of Monday. But at the same time,
it's a double-edged sword.
I don't want a dude to just smile and act as if nothing was wrong.
You can
either.
acknowledge it and still not do the infighting, like the way they did it with. The women on this show, it was, we're going to get along Sunday, and then the day after, we'll be back to feuding. And essentially, they're putting this on hold for a greater cause.
It would also help if they had, more motivation. Like, if we had concrete motivation for why they had to work together.
Right. Well, they want to make the GMs happy.
What are they? Yeah, they want to make Foley smile.
Did you see any of the State of the WWE Universe show?
No, my network subscription isn't working lately, so I missed it.
It's not working?
Yeah.
Or you're not subscribed?
There's something wrong with the logins.
Oh. So. It was so weird. Like, the best parts of it and the weirdest parts were Daniel Bryan and Mick Foley, who, like, they were the focus. Shane McMahon comes off so unlikable. So unlikable.
I know. I didn't watch it, and I know exactly what you mean. Anyway, because did he come across the same as he did in that Mick Foley interview, and also
yeah, part of what I like about these segments so much is that you can really buy that there are real feelings here, and I really get the sense that Shane McMahon does not like Mick Foley, and it's not. WWE is awful at subtlety, so I don't give any credit of Shane just playing the warring commissioner with Mick Foley. But I talked about the water bottle thing.
What water bottle thing?
He comes into the shot and he just chucks it at Mick Foley's chest.
Yeah.
And Mick Foley was getting way off the message where he's talking about Stephanie and being such a great person and how he learns from her, and he's going into stories about Sheamus and Cesaro and how he believed in them. And as he's talking about Stephanie, he's like trying to give a real heartfelt message. And Shane just does like, you can hear him off camera. He's like trying to hold in his laughter. It's like, you're such an asshole at times. Like, this is clearly not an opening for just a mocking line. I just thought he comes off so unlikable on these segments. And I don't see that on the show on SmackDown. I mean, Shane is like...
He plays a great babyface, I think.
He plays a fine babyface on SmackDown, but in the Mick Foley interview, and even more so on this, I just think he comes across as so...
He comes across really cold and kind of guarded to me, like he's, especially in the Mick Foley interview, which I think we keep going back to. But,
smug, like smug.
Or like, to me, he came across kind of on the defensive, like just waiting to kind of field, really tough questions, but instead just kind of presenting more of a corporate, colder version of who he comes across like as a character on TV, I think.
But Mick, like his attack on Daniel Bryan was the fact that Daniel Bryan has done interviews stating, I didn't want this job as GM. I was told to do it because I have a contract. And Bryan got upset at this. And he said, hey, when you were commissioner years back in 2001, you quit. Why'd you quit?
And you went to TNA.
Yeah, well, he kind of had the gap there because he didn't go to TNA till he quit as an announcer, like 7 years later. But whatever. He did go to TNA. And, I mean, it was totally, like this. They were just there to promote Sunday. I thought this got over the conflict of Raw and SmackDown so much better. Like, I wish these segments had just aired as they were going to break throughout the night on Raw and lead up to that closing segment on Monday.
So you're saying the Shane McMahon being a dick was a good thing?
It at least gave you that belief that Shane really doesn't like Mick Foley. Mm-hmm. And I think you want real. Want the benefit of your talking smacks and shows like this are that there's enough real mixed in there that if you just have that foundation, you can put fake on top of that.
Yep.
But it's built on something. Okay, I can totally tell that Daniel Bryan and Mick Foley are working here, but they're using real criticisms of one another that we know are real. We know Daniel Bryan did not want to do this GM job. Yeah. And we know that Mick Foley did quit this company on two occasions. And you can build on that and create an actual conflict where people do believe that these people don't exactly get along with each other, even if this is in the make-believe world of WWE.
That all sounds great. Wouldn't it be even better if there are actual stakes attached to these matches?
Of course. Of course.
Like, they hate each other so much, yeah. So then what are these guys fighting for that you would want to cheer for either one?
Hey, that was a massive misstep, and it could have been anything. And they chose to put nothing on the line other than we're the winners.
Yeah. I mean, the cruiserweight division, I'd say, is actually the biggest thing that'll change. Then
literally the biggest stakes they have attached are on Team SmackDown, and The Undertaker will be pissed if you lose. That's it. That's it. Our next SmackDown moment was from June 27th of 2002, and John Cena answering the open challenge of Kurt Angle. And I thought even more important, what they included here was The Undertaker shaking his hand backstage and being endorsed on night one. And I totally took this as a tease.
Interesting. That's a very interesting...
They chose this, and you look at SmackDown moments, John Cena's debut is probably one that comes to mind. Yeah. But I think on a show where The Undertaker's coming back, Cena's doing WrestleMania. I mean, to me at least, that's at least a seed that they threw on the show.
Sure.
Nikki Bella and Carmella were next. I didn't understand why they were doing this on this show. This is a feud that's gone on forever, and to me is like they did a full match here. Granted, not a finish, but they got time here.
They needed a match.
I guess they had to fill time out. Carmella was choking her on the ropes and then hit this neck breaker off of the apron to the floor. Mm-hmm. And they were selling it like she was, like her neck might be broken.
I thought it was quite good, actually.
I thought this could have been the finish, but they kept going. And Nikki is in a sleeper hold when Charlotte appears in the crowd with a ticket. The Raw women couldn't even get access to the show.
They were not supposed to.
Did SmackDown, did they buy tickets on Monday?
Well, I guess Daniel Bryan and Shane snuck them in through the back.
Maybe they got some plus ones added. Yeah. Then Nikki hits this enziguri, sends Carmella into the barricade, and then she forearms Charlotte and pulls her into the ring and is fighting with Charlotte as the DQ is called. And then the rest of Team Raw runs in, jumps Nikki, and Carmella comes to fight them off, leading to Team SmackDown running down, including Natalya. They're brawling on the floor. Nia Jax missed Becky Lynch and crashed through the barricade. Naomi hit a springboard splash to the women on the floor, and my God, nearly lost her balance on that top rope. She has incredible agility, and Team SmackDown cleared the ring. So as the men got to stand tall on Raw, the SmackDown women got to do the same here on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, it was kind of the same thing with the guys, but I didn't think it was as well done as the men's. Maybe that's too much to ask for because this is not a main event feud, but again, it's like seeing Charlotte and Sasha just work together without that much explanation. I don't know.
You know what was the weirdest thing watching here was Bayley joining in on the gang attack on Nikki. I just think that didn't fit to me with Bayley at all. Like, I understand she's with her team, but it was like watching the 3-on-1 or whatever it was with Bayley joining with the heels here. I just thought it's like, I don't know, it just didn't fit for me with Bayley.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, and to be fair, they only have so much time to be able to get so much across that maybe you don't have enough time to detail the thoughts of an individual character like Bayley, who, if there was more time, maybe she would show reluctance to, attacking what would be her friends otherwise. But it's more so like even with Sasha, just to like stand next to Charlotte, who she really hates and couldn't get along with on Monday, to just attack him. Anyway, that's just more a criticism of just Survivor Series in general.
And we had another shot of the smoky boiler room with a shadow of the Undertaker on the wall. Renee Young is at the desk and through to a Lesnar Bill Goldberg package, which they are. Bill Goldberg has got his WWE moniker. He is now the iconic Goldberg. And then we had another preview for Shooter. And that took us to our tag with the Usos, American Alpha, the Hype Bros, Tyler Breeze, and Fandango against the Vaudevillains, the Ascension, and the Headbangers. 16-man tag way, which... so I didn't even mention the Spirit Squad in this as well. So all night long, Morrow's calling it SmackDown Live 900. That was the hashtag. So as we came back from break, he said, "Welcome back. SmackDown Live 900 6-man tag team action." And the way he said it made it sound like a 906-man tag, which with all the bodies on the apron, I totally believed. As you can tell, I was very invested in this match way. There was a huge chant for Heath Slater, who was on the floor with Rhino and not actually in the match. This was the biggest reaction up to this point on the show, was for Heath Slater. Raleigh is no-selling Simon Gotch chops and fires up in his Zubaz shorts. Ryder hit a missile drop kick to Victor, and then a drop kick to Connor on the floor. Everyone's on the floor. The referee gets in the middle of them as they go to break. They come back. The teams took turns taking each other out with double-team spots. The Usos are left in the ring, and they hit a pair of topes to the floor. This was the big babyface spot that the Usos got that I think had no place here. They've done such a great job of cutting all that stuff out. That it's like, why do we need this meaningless reaction?
Right. I understand the need to want to, in the end, you are building up to the pay-per-view where one team has to face another team. I feel like, though, a lot of these issues could be fixed if you just give the characters proper motivation for why they have to work together. If you said something like, if the Usos don't work together with the other team, they will get fired, or I don't know, whatever bullshit like that. That would give some justification for why they would want to attack Raw or the other guys more than the American Alpha, for instance. I think the matches will be good, especially this match with all the bodies involved and a lot of the talent involved.
And by necessity, they're going to have time. Like there are, I think, like 6 matches announced on this show,
but it's all elimination. It's Survivor Series, right? So
some of the lesser than teams are going to be gone instantly. Yeah. But I really hope like American Alpha is in there for a long time. And
I look forward also to a lot of the pairings of people that I've never met before. Like you might get an American Alpha pairing off against Enzo and Cass, which I think to see them in the ring together for the first time will get large reactions, and you'll see that probably throughout all the Survivor Series matches.
So from there, it ended with the Grand Amplitude being hit on Thrasher and Gable getting the win for his team. Edge came out for the cutting edge with his giant beard. It's quite the beard Adam Copeland has grown. He's filming a show called Vikings, and that's the need for the beard.
Oh, appropriate.
Edge says that he bleeds blue and helped make this show, so he has a vested interest in the 5-on-5 match, and he brings out Team SmackDown. And Edge says, I've been watching since the brand split.
He hasn't been watching before.
He's a noob.
A brand split.
Real fans have been watching for years.
Since January, at least.
Yeah, well, he says this is a place for opportunity, and he wants to shake the hand of the man that embodies that, and AJ thinks it's him, but instead he shakes hands with James Ellsworth, who wants to do a 5-second pose with Edge, but Styles says no, and that no one cares about James Ellsworth or Edge. Second most offensive thing a Styles has said this week. And then runs him down, and in running them down, the crowd chants AJ Styles. So Edge shut that down pretty quick, though, because he just shifted his focus to Randy Orton, and those chants ended.
I hope they're prepared, because AJ is going to get a huge babyface reaction on Sunday.
AJ and Kevin Owens are going to get massive reactions in those matches, and Jericho.
Yep, and Roman Reigns will get a ton of boos from Toronto.
Well, they better know that going in, because you and I knew that in 2 seconds, and so does every single person listening to this show. So be aware of where you're going. Yep. And after that Minneapolis Raw with Brock, I think it's 50-50.
But correction, they'll boo Roman Reigns, but they'll cheer for the Shield.
You're right. They're going to get their email in the morning.
Yeah.
This is who we're with, and these are the situations.
We only like Roman if he's with the Shield.
Yes, it's a very if-then scenario. So Edge talks to Randy, his former Rated RKO teammate, and asks what he is doing with the Wyatt family. Bray says that the old Randy is dead. And Shane says that they don't have to like each other, but they have to be on the same page, and says this is the money show, and that AJ Styles may end up competing on Shane-O-Smackdown. And Styles rightly called that stupid. Ambrose says he will play nice with AJ until the match ends, because then they've got their TLC match. And then the Undertaker's music hit. Huge entrance. He comes in and immediately stares down Shane, and then says that there is no better person to be the commissioner of SmackDown than the man with no fear, as he points to the real shooter,
James Ellsworth.
Shane O'Mac. And says that WrestleMania will no longer define who he is, and says he's back digging holes and taking souls. A line I never want to hear out of this man's mouth again. I understand you have to get it out once for branding purposes, but please never have The Undertaker say he's here digging holes and taking souls. Because I think a part of every Undertaker fan died, literally, hearing that.
You don't want The Undertaker to speak in rhyme?
No, I don't. I really don't.
All right. Yeah, it was a bit of a corny promo from The Undertaker.
He says Survivor Series is where he was born. SmackDown has always been his home, except for when he was drafted to Raw for the first brand split, but let's skip that.
He also hasn't appeared on SmackDown like
quite a bit.
all that often. He always only makes appearances
Shoots
on Raw.
his WrestleMania angles on Raw, but yeah, whatever. Tells them there is no reason to fear failure. This was awesome. There is no reason to fear failure, but if you do fail, you will have reason to fear me.
All right.
Isn't that a contradiction?
You're making my head hurt.
Well, he prefaced it by there's no reason to fear failure, but if you fail, you're fucked. And tells him that Team Raw better rest in peace. And that ended the show, and that takeaway was I'm expecting Taker to be working the Rumble.
Yeah.
And probably semi-regularly heading into WrestleMania this year.
Mm-hmm.
I would not waste him on TLC. That would be a total waste of time, but Rumble, he should be on.
Well, in this new format, is there really such a thing as a waste? I suppose because the Rumble is in a stadium this year, they really do have to save something big for that.
I would say that, you are not going to move subscriber numbers a whole hell of a lot.
Sure.
But I will say you're not moving anything at TLC, whereas Rumble season, I would load that show up significantly, especially because of how big Rumble is going to be this year, that Taker's first match back since Mania should be held off until then.
So who do you see for Taker at Rumble, if you had to think of an opponent right now?
To be honest, I would go...
Would it be somebody on SmackDown?
I really think there's a lot you could do with Goldberg and Taker.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if Cena's going to be the direction for Mania. Like, that's me purely guessing based on that guess, but that's always been one they've talked about.
I like that match.
That was going to be this past year's Mania.
I think Cena can carry him. You know, it's a pretty good match.
I think they can have an excellent match.
Yeah.
That crowd will not let that match fail. So those are two directions you could go, I feel. There's the Randy Orton option as well, now that he's a heel. I don't like Bray. I wouldn't want to redo that.
Can you tell me why Randy exactly joined the Wyatts? Because I couldn't really figure that out.
It may as well be you need a heel for The Undertaker.
No. I meant like in storyline.
He just showed up backstage and said, if you can't beat him, join him. That was it. He turned on Kane.
Didn't he beat him?
He turned on Kane, and Kane has not tried to get revenge at all.
Okay, whatever.
Kane's just like, fuck. Randy got me. All right. Talking Smack. We'll run through this quickly.
Yes, please.
Did you see Talking Smack?
No, I told you my network.
Oh, right.
It's fucked.
Renee and Daniel Bryan are there. Daniel Bryan sprints in because he said, I just came from hugging The Undertaker, but he was not that receptive to a hug. And Bryan says that we brought people back tonight from the past, but we put focus on people in the present as his knock at Raw. And then reacts to Mick Foley from the State of the WWE Universe debate and says, I respect Mick Foley until he blasted me for not wanting the SmackDown job. And then they're joined by Team SmackDown with the women, with Nikki, Natalya, Becky, Alexa, Naomi, and Carmella all joining them at the desk. Try and picture that choreography way.
Think about the headache for the audio guy.
Bryan had to cross the axis and go to the other side of the desk.
Oh, my.
Yes. Nikki ended up either chipping or dislodging her tooth, and it looked awful. She was trying to cover it, and she was saying that, I don't know where the spot was, but she said, I'll be sending you my bill, Charlotte or Carmella.
I hope she keeps it until Sunday. Or actually, she should keep it for a while. That's great. Look what it did for Benoit.
Let's move on. Alexa says that they will get along Sunday, but then they're going to kill each other afterwards. And this was just, this is as close to a slumber party as you could imagine this segment was on Talking Smack, which Nikki basically told Daniel, you're having a daughter. When she has friends over, this is what you can expect. Bryan then praised all the different tag teams in the SmackDown division and said, I believe all of our tag teams are better than the New Day. And Renee says, really? He says, yeah. They've had this long title reign, but they lose every non-title match. Never is there a week that this man doesn't fail to get that one comment in. The Miz and Maurice come in, gloating about winning the title, and asks if Bryan now wants to trade him, because now he has something Bryan wants on his show, the IC title, and says that when Bryan won the IC title, he said he was going to try and make it relevant and more important, and now he can't do what Miz can do with the title, and he walked off. Miz asks who Bryan is rooting for, and Bryan was silent this whole time, and after Miz left, Bryan did state that if Zayn is more of his preference, but says the Miz has really stepped up in this time.
So Zayn is his preference. So that means he wants to lose the IC title?
He says he doesn't want to lose the IC title to Raw, but says if Zayn and Miz were to fight 100 times, he believes Zayn would win 99 times.
Oh, nice. Cool.
So
I like that.
Then he points out how the Miz has stepped up and said, at No Mercy, we put the title match on first because of the debates. Fully acknowledging we were trying to get out of this massive competition. And we put Orton and Bray on last when it was Ziggler and Miz that stole the show that night. And he's praising the SmackDown talent. And the final guest was Edge, who talks about The Undertaker's entrance being the best. It never gets old. And says guys like him, The Undertaker, Batista, Ray, and Eddie all helped to anchor SmackDown for a long time. It's the show where you had less of a glass ceiling. And basically said, there still was a glass ceiling, but you could break through it a lot easier than on Raw. which was accurate at that time. And cites guys like AJ Styles and James Ellsworth who have really broken through after this brand split. And then Ellsworth comes in at the end. Edge praises him, saying you root for this guy watching because you can tell he's a massive fan. And it ends with the two of them doing a 5-second pose. So
cool.
That was Talking Smack for the week. And now we have to get to feedback and a contest. Where do you want to start off, Wai?
Oh, let's do the feedback, and then we'll have people stick around for the contest.
Okay. We'll blitz through this real quickly. Andrew from Michigan writes, Ziggler and Bryan looked really dumb after the IC title match. Miz always cheats, and no one puts in stipulations to prevent it from happening. All it does is make me laugh at Ziggler rather than feel bad for him. I'm very disappointed that we get Miz and Zayn rather than the much better Ziggler and Zayn now.
Mark from Vaughn, I want Taker to get Shane's spot on Team SD, but his endgame is unclear. Hopefully it isn't telegraphing an SD loss. I can see them going to a Styles program before he rematches Cena. Question, how would you bolster the top of the card for SmackDown after TLC? We'll have had combinations of the same 3 guys for 5 months by then. Time to elevate Miz even further? Yeah, I completely think so.
I thought the time was after No Mercy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he loses the title, I don't know if that does necessarily move him up. He's in a difficult role where he's this effective heel with a heel champion that is nowhere near the end of that run.
True. Now, what if, say, Sami Zayn wins on Raw, but Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon signed Sami Zayn to bring the title back and to bring Zayn over to SmackDown?
Oh, boy, that gets really confusing. That makes the GM and commissioner look really dumb on Raw that you don't have your champion signed.
Yeah.
I mean, they're hinting at that, like there could be trades, but...
I mean, I think a name like Sami Zayn is floundering on Raw. That's no surprise, but I think under, the right writers, the right depth of talent, I think SmackDown would be a great fit for him.
I would just want to have one title between the U.S. and IC. I would not want to see both those titles on Raw. And really, what level would Sami Zayn be where he's not at the Universal title level, he's not at the Reigns level. It's like he's in this tier where it's like, I don't know if he'd have much of a different position on Raw than SmackDown.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, SmackDown, there's more, certainly...
I think there's more room on SmackDown for him to grow.
He would definitely have many more options on SmackDown. I guess just having the title on Raw versus the current position he has on Raw,
yeah.
I don't know if there's much of a difference there. SmackDown, certainly.
I guess he could also lose and just get signed anyway to rematch The Miz.
Paul from New Jersey. I thought Daniel Bryan was great on Talking Smack, advocating for past superstars to come back to help highlight younger stars, and my quote of the night, I just hugged The Undertaker. It's official. I'm the greatest of all time.
We got a Paul from New Jersey.
I just read that one.
Oh, sorry. We got a Burgundy from Hog who says, so, are the Usos faces? Because they seem pretty happy and chummy backstage. Tonight made me realize I really miss Edge and The Undertaker. And finally, what a story for James Ellsworth. The twig of a man with no chin goes from random Joe Schmo indie jobber in the summer to having multiple victories over the WWE champion, including in a WWE title match, being flown to Europe, and sharing the ring with bona fide legends and Hall of Famers by fall. I can only hope to one day be that lucky. I mean, I feel like when James Ellsworth initially appeared, everybody talked about the guy, and that's because he is actually exceptional. He's exceptionally goofy looking, and whether you're exceptional in like a Brock Lesnar, or if you're exceptional on the other end of the spectrum, I think fans can gravitate towards you, and I'm glad the WWE is open-minded enough to see the quality of a guy like that.
I've got to say, I'm kind of glad. I don't really care either way, but I feel if he was in a match at Survivor Series as opposed to this mascot figure, I really feel that's the guy the Toronto crowd would turn on. I think we're right.
So I don't know.
I do. I think it would be dependent on who he was working with, but I really feel we are going to hit that with James Ellsworth because this guy is all over the shows, and I think that charm will eventually fade.
I agree. I agree with that.
We're not there yet with most audiences.
He took a back seat in this show.
He did, and I think it's kind of they're not over. Like had he been in that SmackDown match over other guys, I think you could have been testing that limit with people.
But some people would say Shane is not any better of a choice. But I think Shane will get cheered in Toronto.
I do too.
Yeah.
Aditya from India. Not a great show. Didn't feel like the 900th episode of SmackDown, just the cutting edge and the Undertaker appearance. The women's segment was too long and weird because how Bayley was working as a heel felt strange. Also, Ellsworth had his moment of his life for sharing the ring with the Undertaker and Edge. Did you notice Orton's long stare at Ellsworth? And will Dolph Ziggler screw Miz or Sammy at Survivor Series? Heel turn possible. First of all, I thought for an episode, I was looking forward to this show. I think they had more announced ahead of time than a typical SmackDown. And I think if nothing else, the idea that The Undertaker is coming back in some more regular appearances, I think that was somewhat noteworthy to end the show with.
Yeah, I thought so too.
This wasn't the greatest show ever, but it was fine.
It flew by for me. Like
SmackDown always flies by the day after Raw. Always for me.
Brandon from Manitoba. We go to Brandon, who says, I was glad to see Miz win back the IC title, but I worry what this might mean for his future. I see Sami Zayn taking the title at Survivor Series, possibly due to a Dolph Ziggler interference, only to end up being traded to Raw like they have been teasing in return for Sami Zayn. Okay, so I guess he's saying...
a lot of people want to see Sami Zayn leave Raw.
Yeah, I guess Ziggler being traded to Raw in exchange for Sami Zayn. I don't think it makes any sense for Raw to have both the US and IC titles, even if SmackDown does get the Cruiserweight title. So if this happens, I worry about The Miz on Raw. I think he will get too lost in the shuffle just as Sami Zayn is now and will lose momentum. I'm also quite intrigued with The Undertaker's announcement. I don't expect him to wrestle on any SmackDown shows, but if he can go on the pay-per-views, I think there are some interesting options for him.
All right. So there you have it. That was our feedback, and we're going to close off the show with our contest, the winner of which will get a pair of tickets to the NXT After Party that's going to be hosted by Christian and The Miz. So you can ask him in person where he's going. And I'm sure he will tell you right after TakeOver. That's happening at the Real Sports Bar and Grill right after TakeOver, and it's across the street from the ACC. Super accessible. The wings are very good, too. And you will also get a pair of tickets to the live Talk is Jericho show Sunday morning at the John Bassett Theater, where Kevin Owens will be the guest. All the info, if you want to go there, is at markoutmoments.com. And our contest way was take a popular movie and make it wrestling themed. And you were limited to 3 submissions. And there were people who violated the rule. They will only get their first 3 submissions read. So you may have the greatest one, and it was number 7. It will never see the light of day, other than if it's really clever, I will note it, and it will probably be a future Review-A-Raw title. Which, full disclosure, these contests were all designed to give us ideas for future Review-A-Raw episodes.
Well, really, we should be doing every week. Getting people's suggestions for titles.
You should include in your Raw feedback title submissions, because it is the scariest part of my week, is trying to come up with a title each week. Mm-hmm. But let us start, Way. We'll just bounce these back and forth, and these will be based on what kind of laughter is generated from us.
Usually with these types of contests, we come to a pretty unanimous consensus about who the winner is.
So essentially, just note the one title that really stands out for you, because some will be good and most will be awful. Dave here. Independence Bray, Roman Reigns Man, Forrest Bumps.
I like Independence Bray.
All right, you're next.
All right, okay.
We also got a lot of submissions from people outside of Toronto who have no use for these prizes, so it's up to you if you want to read them or not. We got a lot of submissions.
Let's read them anyway.
Yeah, it's fine. These are clever.
We go to the Bishop Zero, who's got a few suggestions. The Hurt Locker Room.
I've heard that one before, but yes.
The Girl with the Ricky Dragon Steamboat Tattoo.
That's good.
Beetlejuicing.
It's okay. The middle is kind of like, that's the tone I want.
Okay.
Next one. And that guy can't win, so just forget about it. M. Fletcher. Citizen Demon Kane. An Inconvenient R-Truth. J. Lethal Weapon.
Pretty good.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Canadian Bacon. 316 to Yuma. The Full Mountie. Jesse Ventura. Pet Detective.
These are good.
Yeah, these are all good.
Jesse LeDuc. Mantar on the Moon. Iron Man Mountain Rock. Indiana Jones and the Dungeon of Doom.
That's pretty good, too.
These are so much better when I have you to work off of than the last one where it was me alone in this room.
I'm sorry about that.
Sounding like an idiot.
Canadian Bulldog. Expocalypse Now.
Oh, boy.
Ferris Bueller's New Day Off. Steve Austin Powers, International Man of Whoop-Ass.
See, I heard some individuals that might have been better, but as a collective, that one's pretty good. So I don't know if we're
judging by that.
I think we should measure off the collect. I did state to people that they didn't have to put out 3.
I think it's just 1.
Let's go on. What is the best title?
This is actually a little harder than I thought. I don't know how to really. But anyway, let's keep going.
All right, let's go to Tony C. Shield Wars, Roman Empire Strikes Back, Weekend at Foley's, Dude, Where's My List?
Okay.
Next.
Sick of Dave's. Big Papa Pumping Iron. Lord of the Brass Rings. Samoa Joe versus the Volcano. Yeah.
All right, Rob McDonald, who added plots for these movies, which we're just going to do the title, so I'm not going to give context.
Go ahead.
Jurassic La Parka. The Nightmare on Helm Street, which, I'm sorry, but that was one of his moves, so I can't give credit to that one. The Samuel Shawshank Redemption. 2 out of 3, pretty solid there.
That's pretty good.
That was good.
We got Anthony who's got...
And included links to the actual movies in his submission, so extra points there.
Zach and Mojo Make a Porno. I fucked it up. Okay. A series of unfortunate main events. I Am Legend Killer.
All right. Zach and Mojo Make a Porno is kind of funny. Okay, from... I don't know what this name is. We the People Under the Stairs. I Know What You Did Last SummerSlam. Beauty and the Beast Incarnate.
Okay, next one. In the Clothesline of Fire. Gorilla Monsoon in the Mist. Pile Driving Miss Daisy.
All right. From Pickles. It's a Mr. Wonderful Life. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Guns. Reservoir Road Dogs. There's 3 pages of these away.
Are people still listening?
No, I think we turned them off probably 10 minutes into this show.
Okay.
I am ready for this to be the most angry feedback we've ever gotten.
We will keep going. From Rusev with Love. Godzilla versus King Kong. Brody. Ultimo Dragon Ball Z. The History of His Trunks.
Ready to Crumble. The Silence of the Crowds. Honey, I Shrunk Slater's Kids.
I'm tired now.
Do you want me to continue?
No, let's keep going. I'm in it.
Leaf Freak is you.
Oh, okay. American History X Pac.
This next one.
50-50 Booking. Seth Rogen and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. What was the name of that movie?
50-50.
Oh. Being John Cena.
John Cena. Just picture him doing a Malkovich film.
I'd watch that.
Okay, A-Rob. Malcolm Degeneration X. Finding Dory Funk.
Oh, man.
CLB. Return of Christian Cage.
What movie is that?
I don't quite know.
All right. Next.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Saving Private Rollins.
These are all possible porn titles.
Roman Got Fingered. 40-year-old Ellsworth.
I love his comments for each one, including ha 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 at the end of 40-year-old Ellsworth.
Well, our goal is to...
It's from Abdullah, too. Yeah. Abdullah, who hasn't called in forever.
Our goal, I think, at the very least with these contests is to make yourselves laugh.
Exactly. That's the point. All right, next one is from Furman. Nathan Jones' Diary. Bride of Chuck Palumbo. And Shelly Martinez as Ariel, the little... Oh. Boy.
I laughed at that just because Pollock almost...
I don't pre-read these.
Stepped in it.
Oh,
We got Eric who says, The Lords of the Ring, the two powers of pain. Mrs. Doubtfire,
I don't know why I like that one so much.
the Big E Bowski.
That one's got potential. Okay, now this is so
stupid.
God, this next one, it has some good ones, but they're not in the top 3. So I'm sorry, but you only get the top 3. Forrest Trump, Singing in the Rain of Roman, Oklahoma, starring Ed Ferrara. His 4th one is his best one. You know which one is disqualified? Almost Shameless.
Oh, it's too bad.
Movie I just watched not all that long ago. And he also took your Schindler's List of Jericho.
Was that mine?
Well, you came up with that on Monday.
All right. Well, we got a Furcifer who's got a bunch, but we're only going to read the top 3.
Oh, and speaking of which,
Schindler's List of Jericho.
clearly people that did not listen on Monday.
Stole from the previous guy. Kayfabe, Heel in the City. Wrong Turn Buckle.
Probably not the winner. Jeremy from California. I'm going to just skip it because he can't win.
Why? Oh, okay. Eddie, 3-man band and a baby. Throw Buff's Mama from the A Train. What movie is that?
It doesn't come to mind.
Are you Googling Throw Buff's Mama from the A Train?
Throw Mama from the Train
Okay.
is the name of the movie.
Diamond Cutters Are Forever. Oh, God. I'm going to puke.
Richie from Toronto. The Curious Case of Shelton Benjamin Button. The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Happy Gilbert.
Across the WWE Universe, the Roman Empire Strikes Back. Debbie Does Bo Dallas.
Superman Punch Bad. You really need to see that one. The Battle Royal Tenenbaums. Best Friends with Benefits. And he made a poster for it.
Oh, wow.
Final page here, Way. And then we will wrap this up. Oh, my God. Someone made a list of like 50.
Well, they had a really good afternoon, I bet.
Holy Christ.
Brandon from Oshawa. Guardians of the WWE Universe. And you have to put in quotations.
And not a good sign.
Yeah. Batman versus John Cena. Dawn of the C Nation. Back to the Screwjob 2. Okay, I think that this has got to be. It's got to be the worst one.
Okay. I'm skipping to Ham and Egger. Risky Business. American Gigolo. Gangrels of New York. We're almost there, Way.
Okay. Angles in the outfield. I feel like this is like we're reading like a list, like the longest list of like Academy Award nominees ever. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Deuce Bam Bam Bigelow Male Bagwell. Oh my God.
It's hard to fit 2 into 1. That to me is a tough one.
There's real art to it.
Okay, we have a very DX-themed one here from Tim Orton from Hull. American History DX, Malcolm DX, DX Lies and Videotape.
No. All right. Scott Putski versus the World. My Cousin Vinnie Mac.
And the final one, with an incredible amount of submissions that you can go check out, from Steve J. Wright. We're only reading the top 3. White Men Can't Bump. The Passion of the Christian, $1 Million Babyface.
You're asking me to choose amongst all that?
I definitely feel page 1 had the most solid reactions. And
we were also really tired by the end.
Probably true. Was there one that comes to mind for you?
I don't know if there's any of these that could be that could possibly be all that amazing. You know, I don't know if I've ever been blown away by wrestling movie puns.
Well, I've got my pick if you don't have one.
Okay, you tell me. I defer to you.
I'm giving it to Rob McDonald, who had Jurassic La Parka and the Samuel Shawshank Redemption.
Good. I agree with you.
He's the winner. Rob, congratulations. You will have tickets to both the after party and the live Talk is Jericho on Sunday morning.
When people ask you how you got tickets, you just say
Jurassic La Parka.
Yeah.
That can be your new claim to fame.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's been a long edition of the show. We're going to wrap it up. We will be back at some point. There's a new What's Next coming out Thursday, tentatively scheduled for Bauer and Pollock on Friday.
Jesus Christ.
MMA report.
I'm watching an edition of AAA on the Fight Network.
Oh, I thought that was your reaction to us doing another show.
There's just two guys fighting in a flaming table and a dude rolling around in a flaming table to make sure he got all the flames, of course.
Yes.
All right.
So keep it tuned to liveaudiowrestling.com all weekend. We have tons of shows coming your way. We have the full video interview with Chris Jericho up at youtube.com/liveaudiowrestling. New editions of Japanese Audio Wrestling and Review America as Nate and Brian react to last week's election results. So much stuff to catch. Go to liveaudiowrestling.com. And, was there something else we wanted to mention? We're going to end the show with a clip. As tonight on the Fight Network, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, it's part 2 of Retrospective with Tommy Dreamer that Wai Ting and George Barbosa have worked extensively on. Anything you want to say about the Tommy Dreamer interview?
He was really open about talking about a lot of things about his career.
And was backstage at SmackDown last night.
Oh, was he?
Yes, with Bubba Ray Dudley.
Yeah, and I think like the aim that George tries to do with a lot of these shows is to just kind of give a voice to a lot of wrestlers to talk about things that they don't usually get to talk about. So in this show, I believe Tommy talks a lot about his family, about just life on the road and his experiences in pro wrestling. And I was really happy with the way the shows turned out. So please watch them.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up. And I'm already getting ready for the comments.
Yeah, me too.
You'll get the.
Tell us in person. How about that if we see you on the weekend at any of the events?
We can have a discussion at Survivor Strikes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to wrap it up, folks. Goodbye.
I've thought about this a lot. If I had to give myself more advice, a lot of people, when they want to knock Paulie and they want to knock, ECW for a lot of, the negative things, everybody stayed in ECW by choice. Also, a lot of guys had no place to go. And, they want to say, they bounced checks on me, or he folded the company, he was in bed with WWE all along. You decided to stay. You are responsible for all your own actions. If you weren't happy about it, do something else about it. For younger me, I always, WCW at one point offered me more money than I probably would have ever made in my career to leave ECW. I knew if I left ECW, it would have hurt. I went to Paul, and Paul was crying to me, "You can't do it. We're so close to making it." And it was for a lot of money. I'm telling you, a lot of money. Paul lied to me, but he lied to me to keep ECW going, which I actually get. And if I would have left, I would never have been Tommy Dreamer. And staying and going down with the ship of ECW helped me along the way to appreciate what I have, made the fans rally behind me more. I've stayed in the business longer than everyone else who did leave. And when I hear negative stuff about wrestling or wrestling companies, and why I guess I'm so passionate, because you never want to lose something that you love, and you never want that to ever go away. If you want to talk to people in Montreal who are Expos fans, you will talk about how gutted they feel. I lived that in ECW, and it wasn't about the money. It was about losing something you love. It was like a death. And it was the worst time of my life, but I survived. And if I could tell myself I have no regrets, I would do everything pretty much the exact same way, because my life turned out okay.